One of your professional goals has always been to exceed the dates of your deliverables and get it done even earlier than expected. And even if it's not perfect, as Ken Blanchard's book in The Raving Fans says, expecting perfection can get in the way of getting things done. Can you talk to the importance of that and maybe even share some advice or easy steps an executive can use to hit deadlines on time?
Well, I think any executive needs to understand that meeting deadlines is something that others are contingently waiting for your part of what your deliverable is. And so it's kind of a chain reaction that if you're late in getting the information to your supervisor, then your supervisor is probably disappointing somebody up the chain in getting information or decision-making data that's critical. I've always managed my objectives of trying to be ahead of the curve where deliverables are always done before they're due. And I've made decisions where, to me, it's better to get a project information to the best of my ability, to as accurate as I can get it, completed ahead of schedule, and I feel that that's far more beneficial to the process than delivering it 3 days late with maybe 2% more accuracy. Not a good thing. And sometimes the information is not even needed any longer if it's late. So my advice to others is plan yourself out, organize yourself, make sure that you can always juggle whatever you need to meet your deadlines. And if you can't meet your deadlines, then certainly manage accordingly by letting your supervisor know so you can establish the expectations that it won't be delivered on time, and then your supervisor can adjust accordingly.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest problems in any business, retail or not, is not meeting the deadline and not telling anybody you're not going to reach it.
That's not a good thing.
Yeah,
Nobody
exactly.
likes surprises.
And along that same lines, let's talk about personal development and how we're all ultimately responsible for our own development. And while we've all heard executives say, oh, I was never trained to do that, or they didn't give me enough training, you shared a great story with us in the Friday Focus about how you approached one of your supervisors and asked that supervisor, what do I need to do to be rated exceptional? And you basically held your supervisor accountable for developing that plan and helping you reach it, which you did. Could you talk to us about that process? I mean, that took guts. How did you manage it? And did your boss get upset?
Well, I believe one needs to take control of their careers. No one else is going to take care of your interests better than yourself. And others may think that's a bit aggressive, the approach that, I had taken with my one situation there. But, I think it's important that if you believe that you want to be successful, that you need a roadmap, that you need specifics to be able to know that you're meeting whatever benchmark criteria are being put upon you to be considered successful, that's okay. It's okay to be able to have established and have full transparency of exactly what you need to do to be successful. Now, others may think it might have been a little aggressive to kind of box in my supervisor to find out exactly what I needed to do, what exactly was required for me to be considered exceptional, and what would be required to be accomplished to be able to be promoted. That being said, if you do it in a constructive manner and one that you believe is going to be best for the company in adding value and for your supervisor to show that you're performing well as a person and as a department, then it's okay. And at the end of the day, he actually wasn't offended. I don't think he actually knew that he was not providing as much clarity through communication as what the expectations were. And I'm pleased to say that I had achieved the goals, and as a result of that, he was pleased to provide me the promotion that was part of achieving those. So at the end of the day, I don't regret it, and I always think that being fully upfront and honest with your supervisor is a good approach to take.
And that was an effective managing upwards, I should say. You also talked about in the Friday Focus, learning beyond your current role and understanding the entire retail business. and that knowledge is the most valuable asset an executive has, and that expanding your toolkit is a lifetime journey. I mean, learning beyond your current role can be a scary thing for some people, and you run a risk if you do it, and quite frankly, in today's world, you run a risk if you don't. Can you talk to that and make some suggestions about what roles you'd suggest an LP executive learn beyond their own, and what's the benefit of that?
Well, I think a loss prevention executive should always, go beyond their scope of exactly what they believe is their responsibility. Traditionally, you would think loss prevention strictly looking at asset protection, safety, and the general things that come to mind. But as a loss prevention executive, you also need to recognize that you need to align yourself with those priorities that the business has. And those priorities are making money, making profitability, creating value, all the other areas that a business has to consider. And for a LP executive to ignore that just puts them a little bit more out of alignment with other company executives regarding trying to achieve the priorities of the company. So some suggestions, I think understanding business, understanding the profit and loss statement, understanding the return on investment calculation, and those things that all business decisions are made on are something that a loss prevention executive of today should at least spend some time to understand, because it will be helpful in having them even present their own business initiatives to others.
Being part of a team, I mean, that was one of the topics we also talked about in the Friday Focus, in the importance of sharing your passion about what you do in making a contribution. Can you elaborate on team dynamics in the role an LP executive plays in that, whether it be an internal team of loss prevention or it be a team throughout the organization with operations? Can you talk to that team dynamics piece, how important it is to expand themselves there?
Loss prevention is easily placed into a specialized box, and it's very important to get out of that box by having others recognize that all people in loss prevention, all team members are trying to achieve common goals. I think one of the things that loss prevention executives can do is try to align themselves, be partners, not work in a vacuum, and always, try to create common goals that the entire organization can achieve. I think teams win based on being champions of efforts that are the right thing for the company and the business, not just loss prevention. And I think that gains credibility when others see that a loss prevention executive is looking out for what's in the best interest of the company. They gain a lot of respect. And I think those are the times where the partnerships, understanding other people's priorities and recognizing that sometimes they conflict. Sometimes what's right for loss prevention is wrong for the business, and vice versa. And I think showing that you're somebody that thinks of all aspects and is willing to partner and be a team player is critical to being able to gain accomplishments.
I mean, ultimately, with all teams that we work with, and in all the days we spend in stores, I mean, retail is a people business. And that's what bites us all in the beginning of our careers. I mean, it's a people business, and you get bit by the retail bug. And speaking for the LP community, you couple that with the thrill of the chase, and what you've got is a career. I mean, where emotions can run high at times, because it is a people business. Can you speak to the human interaction piece and give the LP executive some tips on simple human interaction outside of the LP arena?
Well, being a good communicator is key. I think that's one of the areas where not just loss prevention executives, but others sometimes have shortcomings where what they think and perceive they are saying is not necessarily what is being received on the other end. So I think that being clear, concise is a critical component of being able to make sure that others understand what your requests are. The other thing I believe is very important is always being calm and methodical. In the heat of the battle with loss prevention, there's always something going on. There's a disaster, there's something that is out of control, there's always the hype of the emergency. And I think that it's very important to always maintain your composure. Think methodically, think calm, take a deep breath, always look and be perceived as a seasoned executive that is making grounded decisions. The last thing that you want to be perceived of is somebody that's reactionary, making hip shot decisions, knee-jerk reactions. You need to be sound, calm. Others around you will look to you as, kind of an anchor, and the best way to do that is by maintaining the most composure and focus that you can to where you can be respected as being a level-headed and good decision maker.
And quite frankly, speaking from my experience, that is the element that really differentiates between the good leaders and the great leaders. And speaking of leadership, I mean, we've talked a lot about the individual, the team, learning, change management, and such. Can we touch the leadership element? I mean, what in your view makes a good leader? What components go into making a good leader?
Well, Gus, I think a good leader, serves truly as a role model for others. I think one item that I always use as a base for that is that I would never ask any of my reports or others to do what I would not be prepared to do myself. I think holding others as well as myself to high standards and accountability is something that a leader should do. I think a leader also is someone that doesn't force down and push decisions, but helps facilitate and allows others to bring forward ideas that can be accepted. And a leader is one there to facilitate and direct and help get to the right answer, not necessarily someone that has to always have the right answer. And I think in my career that's something that I've learned. The other item is ensuring that you treat people with respect and dignity, and also to ensure that you reward and recognize those people that are performing, as well as those that aren't performing. You have an obligation to let them know where they're going off track. And while that sometimes can be confrontational and difficult, as a leader, you owe it to your people that report to you and others that you have control over their destiny to ensure they know what they need to do to make sure they're and can be as successful as they can be.
Mm-hmm. If you take everything that you've said and put it in a huge bucket, I mean, your philosophy is basically build the field, they'll come and play, which is a fantastic philosophy to have. And have faith in who you are and what you are, and focus on developing yourself each and every day. Is there anything that you'd like to share with the viewers, specifically in the LP community, that you feel is critically important in today's retail world? And can you share with us where you think the retail LP community is going in the future?
Well, I think the retail LP community in the future is going to have to definitely be focused on the technology advances that have been occurring so quickly in retail. With all the changes that are happening with technology and automation, these are areas that are basically changing the landscape of how we operate business in each of our stores today. Loss prevention needs to be in front of the curve by being part of the development and review and providing advice as to how to put controls in place to ensure that those new technologies and systems will be able to protect the business and ensure that those sales actually can become profitable. I assure you that if they're not in front of it, they're certainly going to be chasing it, because there's going to be plenty of people that will be out there trying to circumvent these processes in their efforts to try to defraud retailers and other companies as well. I also believe that the retail executive of the future for loss prevention is going to be tasked and challenged with being much more global, much more involved in asset protection, safety, risk mitigation, all areas of legal that compliance related, that they certainly have that experience and expertise to be able to add value. And I think the old days of the security department are well gone, and the retail loss prevention executives of the future are going to have to be business unit owners that really understand how to operate all facets of what I just mentioned.
Well, thanks, Neil. I appreciate you taking the time to meet with us today and sharing your views and thoughts and opinions. It was an interesting time. I enjoyed it. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen, for this edition of the LP News Network with our Leadership and Development Series with Neil Watanabe, the CFO of Anna's Linens. And please remember that it's all about the partnerships you develop in those stores that will make you successful each and every day. Thanks for listening.